Dear listeners all around the world, and most especially in Africa, Algeria, Ghana, Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa, Kenya, and all the other countries, I salute you all. I am Nathan Tambi, delighted to be communicating at this juncture from Pretoria, South Africa. Let me take this opportunity to thank the management of Felina Management Consultants, the main sponsors of this program, who allowed me the opportunity of presenting to you this lecture on role players in entrepreneurship and sustainable development in Africa. The aim of this program is to motivate every African to be an entrepreneur. Sustainable development cannot happen on its own without each role player playing his part and taking responsibility, not forgetting that during and at the end of each level of development, an integrated approach is of paramount importance. Be an entrepreneur and make Africa great. In this lecture, we look at a number of issues relating to sustainable development and what role does entrepreneurship play in making the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development a reality. First, entrepreneurship refers to the process of creating a new enterprise and bearing any of its risks with a view of making the profit. The person who creates the new enterprise and embraces every challenge for its development and operation is referred to as an entrepreneur. The more modern definition of entrepreneurship is also about transforming the world by solving big problems, like bringing about social change or creating an innovative product that challenges the status quo of how we live our lives on a daily basis. Sustainable development is the idea that human societies must live and meet their needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Africa must develop in such a way as being able to address the current economic, social, and environmental challenges in a manner that does not compromise the ability of the future generations to continue addressing their own challenges. In 2015, a 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted by all the United Nations member states. It provided a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and in the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, while tackling the climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Some of the SDGs where entrepreneurship can be very instrumental are ending poverty in its form, ending hunger, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls plus human rights at all levels. In order to make the 2030 Agenda a reality, broad ownership of the SDGs must translate into a strong commitment by all stakeholders to implement the goals. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is an ambitious agenda setting out the resolutions and commitments by the participating members of the United Nations, and Africa is part of the world, so it is bound by these resolutions. The SDG together are integrated and indivisible and balance the three dimensions of sustainable development, which are the economic, social, and environmental. In an unprecedented manner, entrepreneurship will enable us as Africans to realize our potential if we have the opportunity and means of utilizing the resources we have. We shall be able to transform our societies into poverty and hunger-free citizens in all forms and directions, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all, ensuring that sustainable consumption and production patterns are achieved, and many more achievements. At a macro level, multinational enterprises, in partnership with the governments, would, for instance, vigorously tackle goals 6, 7, 9, and 10, which are ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all, build resilience infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation, reduce inequality within and among countries. In addition, other major role players who happen to be the politicians are responsible for creating and maintaining a conducive environment in which entrepreneurship can thrive. If this happens, then the outcomes will be admirable. African leaders must silence the gun because entrepreneurship cannot occur effectively in an unstable environment. For instance, people cannot work the land while their safety is compromised. Factories cannot operate if the employees are on the run. Politicians must ensure that we have one currency. Trade between African countries will be easier. Development will be quicker. One country. There's no need for borders. There will be free and faster movement of goods, services, and people. One language. Communication amongst the African population will be improved, since not everyone understands or is able to communicate in English or other people's languages. One army. Wars between African countries will no longer be happening and won't be necessary. Africa will probably have the strongest army in the world. A common African market where the prices of African countries' commodities for export to other countries are determined. If these contentious issues are addressed, all human beings will enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives. Societies will be peaceful, just and inclusive, free from fear and violence. Economic and social technological progress will occur in harmony with nature. The planet will be protected from degradation, thereby supporting the needs of the present and the future generations. Africa's natural resources will be exploited responsibly and sustainably. Through an entrepreneurial culture, it is essential for all the African countries, in conjunction with all other continents, to mobilize the means required to implement this agenda. Through a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development, this can happen, based on the spirit of strengthened global solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable, and with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. With entrepreneurship on the forefront, the supremely ambitious and transformational vision set for the 2030 will be realized, and it will lead to a continent free of poverty and hunger, disease and want, where all life can thrive. A continent free of fear and violence, where there is universal respect for human rights and human dignity, the rule of law, justice, equality, and non-discrimination. A continent with universal literacy, health care, and social protection, where physical, mental, and social well-being are assured. A continent where essential facilities are safe, affordable, and nutritious, like safe drinking water and sanitation, improved hygiene, and sufficient food. A continent where human habitats are safe, resilient, and sustainable, and where there is universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. A continent of respect for race, gender, age, ethnicity, and cultural diversity. A continent of equal opportunity, permitting the full realization of human potential and contributing to shared prosperity. A continent where social and economic barriers have been removed. A just, equitable, tolerant, open, and socially inclusive continent in which the needs of the most vulnerable are met. A continent in which every country enjoys sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and decent work for all. A continent in which consumption and production patterns and use of all natural resources, from air to land, from rivers, lakes and aquifers to oceans and seas, are sustainable. A continent in which democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, as well as an enabling environment at national and international levels, are in place. A continent in which development and the application of technology are climate sensitive, respect biodiversity, and are resilient. A continent in which humanity lives in harmony with nature and in which wildlife and other living species are protected. It should be strongly noted, therefore, that Africa needs all this and is still experiencing immense challenges to sustainable development. And if it does not wake up from its age-long slumber and act differently, the 2030 agenda will not be a reality. Billions of our citizens continue to live in poverty and are denied a life of dignity. There are rising inequalities within and among African countries. There are enormous disparities of opportunity, wealth, and power. Gender inequality remains a key challenge. Unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, is a major concern. Global health threats, more frequent and intense natural disasters, spiraling conflict, violent extremism, terrorism and related humanitarian crises, and forced displacement of people threaten to reverse much of the development progress made in the recent decades. Natural resources and depletion and adverse impacts on environment degradation, including desertification, drought, land degradation, fresh water scarcity, and loss of biodiversity, add to and exacerbate the list of challenges which humanity faces. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and its adverse impacts undermine the ability of all African countries to achieve sustainable development. Increases in global temperature, sea level rise, ocean acidification, and other climate change impacts are seriously affecting coastal areas and low-lying coastal countries, including many least developed countries and small island developing states. The survival of many societies and of the biological support systems of the planet is at risk. It should, however, be noted that some countries have made significant progress in addressing some of these development challenges. Within the past generation, millions of people have emerged from extreme poverty. Access to education has increased for both boys and girls. The spread of information and communications technology and global interconnectedness has great potential to accelerate human progress, to bridge the digital divide, and to develop knowledge societies, as does scientific and technological innovation across the areas as diverse as medicine and energy. Advice regarding entrepreneurship and the SDGs. Fenlina Management Consultants encourages everyone on the African continent and beyond to promote entrepreneurship right from childhood by utilizing any available resources sustainably. By doing so, our beloved continent will quickly realize and maximize its potential in order to achieve prosperity in most of all the SDGs. In conclusion, the interlinkages and integrated nature of the Sustainable Development Goals are of crucial importance in ensuring that the purpose of the agenda is realized. By giving entrepreneurship a front seat in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, most of the SDGs or dreams will be a thing of the past even before 2030. If we realize our ambitions across the full agenda, the lives of all Africans will be profoundly improved and our continent will be completely transformed for the better. Be an entrepreneur and make Africa great. Presented to you by Nathan Tambi, sponsored by Fenlina Management Consultants. Thank you.